What's up, ladies and gentlemen? If you haven't had enough of us, we're doing it one more time. We were here yesterday with ImmyBot. Today we're doing Technical Deficit with my good friend Luke Whitelock coming to us from across the pond, and he's enjoying himself a nice. I couldn't tell if it was an amber or but he's enjoying himself, and we're going to enjoy ourselves together. Today we're doing something that's near and dear to my heart. We're talking about documentation. You guys know I'm all about process and documentation. He's making it easy. He says you don't have to do documentation by hand. Do it automatically or automagically. And I know Simon and Sean are already dying for me to do some magic here. I don't know if we'll get to that. But without much further ado, let's bring up Mr. Luke Whitelock. How you doing, my friend?
Good, thank you.
We already have Glenn in the chat asking not another IPA. That was from Kelvin last week, Tech Bar. Did you know that Kelvin's a sommelier for beer?
No, I did not. Wow.
Yeah, I mean he is like boundless with the amazing facts about him, our favorite Dutch friend. So, but of course that boiled down to what's the right IPA for every meal, because you know I don't like IPAs. What are you drinking, man? What do you have there?
An English pale ale, I think.
Okay, all right. Close enough. So, Luke, why don't you introduce yourself, man?
So I'm the technical director of a small MSP in the UK. I've been running the company for about 10 years now with my business partner, Kat. We started off doing consultancy and kind of moved over the years to bits of consultancy and break fix to being a full proper MSP nowadays. Yeah, and then I enjoy writing PowerShell and coding stuff in my spare time, basically.
And that's I think that's the understatement of the year to say you like writing PowerShell. You are probably, now I don't want to take anything away from Kelvin. Cyberdrain.com is absolutely a phenomenal resource. But you're up there. You're up there with Daniel. You're up there with with GC. I mean, as far as the content on your blog, man, it's phenomenal. I got to give you credit to that.
Not quite up there with Kelvin quite yet, based on the amount of content. I've only been doing it for a few months so far.
But you did something that that I want to thank you for, which is we used. I'm big fans of Kelvin stuff. He puts out something, and immediately we're doing it in the office. But you've gone and you took a lot of his scripts in the beginning, and you converted them for Hudu. So instead of like the IT glue stuff, you went and you actually built it out for Hudu, which made life a lot easier for those of us using Hudu, myself included. So I appreciate that. And I'm not going to let you be humble about this. It's not a lot. It's freaking ridiculous, dude. You have a phenomenal amount of glorious documentation, so I appreciate it, including the very first one that terrified me the first time I logged in and looked at it. So, and you've published some modules, right? You published the PowerShell module for Hudu, which you continue to modify.
Yeah, it was. So I ended up doing it was about the same time that I started using Hudu, was when the Kelvin's capture the flag thing was going on. So I did that and finished most of them in like the first day. So just had some spare time. So I thought, you know what, someone needs to get Hudu to work with like PowerShell and be able to move with these scripts. I thought, well, why not do that now? And
go ahead, man.
Yeah, and then we're just getting feedback from Kelvin and other people saying, yeah, don't do it that way. That's awful. And so a lot of help with that.
To this day, hey Vishnu, thanks for joining us. To this day, when I'm writing any PowerShell and I'm working with arrays, I think I hear Kelvin's in the back of my mind. Don't do plus equals. Don't do plus equals.
Yeah, so. One of the very first things I got told off for. But it makes so much sense when you actually learn why.
Yeah, so I always go to MSP Geek now whenever I'm writing something. I'm saying, did Kelvin yell at anybody for doing this? No, okay, I can do it. Okay, we're good. So, but let's talk about the stuff you've done, because it's not just on Kelvin stuff. At this, you have a lot of original content too, right? You've done some. You were showing us some of the Magic Dash stuff you did, which is great. And that's what we're here to talk about, right? It's not just about the documentation, because having documentation is phenomenal, but if it's difficult to get into the platform, your engineers are not going to do it. Your staff's not going to do it. And but as an established MSP, you know, we live and die by our documentation, right? Like if we can't sit there and go look for, you know, what how many of us have had 365 licenses that have been sitting there unused because we didn't know to document it and document what license were assigned, or we get a new employee and we don't know what we have available. We just go by, you know, that stuff. It has to be there. And you figured out a way to make it easier, right?
Oh yeah, that's the plan. Is like my view on documentation is it should be dynamic and it should be automated. Like anything which you have to go and look at to document, which you can get by code, there's no point in making someone do it.
Absolutely. And so I want to talk real quick. I mean, you know, we're talking Hudu here, right? I mean, obviously we're using Hudu. Did you ever use I don't want to say any names that rhyme with that you know,
Yes,
I don't want to say any names
we moved from the
that rhyme
sticky
with
one.
but where you came from that? You came from
Yeah, so
from
we
other
moved over
platforms?
from IT Glue.
Yeah, we did as well. And nothing against IT Glue, just I happen to like Hudu. You know, every platform has their pros and cons, right? But can you tell us on the positive side why you picked Hudu, what you like about it?
So I'd been keeping an eye on Hudu for probably about a year was when I first came across them. And I'd just been like reading all their version notes as they came out and was like, well, this is actually interesting, something to keep an eye on. And then started doing an actual trial around September time. And there was a couple of bits which were still missing. I think they finally did a version in, it was the end of last year, where it was finally, this is exactly what we need to be able to actually replace IT Glue. So at that point, I managed to convince everyone else that yes, it's time to move. I checked that they'd finally got all the bits, and I think someone else had started to do some PowerShell for Hudu on their subreddit. So that was really like, well, there is going to start being the ecosystem around it, which IT Glue has. In my view, it's a better product. It's faster. We can self-host it. I'm not particularly a fan of some of the business practices that IT Glue started doing over the last few years. So yeah, I was more than happy to finally find a decent product which would actually replace it.
No, I agree 100%. Like, especially the self-hosted thing was a big deal for me. Coming from other PSA and RMM platforms, I learned very early on that they will release stuff to the cloud. They won't. I'm not saying Hudu. Hudu's not guilty of this, but many platform vendors will release an upgrade to the cloud that may break something, especially when you've gone to certain lengths of automating things and leveraging the API. You know, it's one thing if you're just logging in and making, you know, click, click, click. If they make a change, usually there's a usability issue, but it doesn't break anything. But I've had it times where, you know, Schmotomate will make an update to the cloud and, you know, and it breaks some integration I had. There was no end to my pain when I was early on with Brightgauge and them. So I learned about 6 months in, I just went everything on premises. So I absolutely, and no outages, right? So I absolutely loved that I could do that with Hudu. So that's awesome. Okay, cool. So we're Hudu fans. We selected Hudu. But you had to migrate. What challenges did you come across?
So at that point in time, I've been thinking about it for a while, of like probably since we tried to move from IT Glue to IT Boost, like probably 3 or 4 years ago. And at that point, I was thinking, well, how can you actually script doing an automated move and stuff? Didn't solve it for when we did the move. So our poor apprentice had to manually move every document at the end and reconfigure everything. So that was a little bit of a challenge. But yeah, we were saving so much money on it, putting in the time just to get over to it wasn't too bad. It also gave us a chance to go through and just review absolutely everything as we did the migration, which is we'd got a whole load of documentation debt built up over the years, just loads of crap which needed removing. So yeah, we kind of took it as a fresh start, did it as a manual task. But yeah, typically about 2 weeks after we finished, I then figured out that's how you can automate it.
Well, you've been. I don't think you've released it yet. At least I know you've been talking every day like you're about to, but I don't think you've released your migration script yet, right?
No. So Hudu finally released the fixes and the extra API bits I needed on, I think it was Sunday night. But I've been spending this week prepping for this, so I haven't had a chance to finish it off yet. But it's a bank holiday weekend here this weekend, so I should hopefully get first version finished off then.
Just yeah, no, it's
older API bits.
And that's one of the things I want to give them credit for. Hey, Shams, thanks for joining us. That's one of the things I want to give them credit for. That I see you'll mention something in the Slack channel, and you'll say, "Oh, is this supposed to do this?" And I remember like folders. I remember you bringing up, and and some of the other things, the way they were doing, parent-child stuff. You're like, "Can we do this? Can we do this? Can this?" And Jacob responds back, and it's either confirming or like telling you how to do things, or like it's coming out in a future release. And by future release, it means like 30 seconds later, which is phenomenal. And I love that. I love that. I remember coming from another platform where, you waited 2.5, 3 years for PDF exports. Yay. So, I don't want to shame anybody, but you know what I'm talking about.
It's when you have an ideas forum which just builds up more and more votes on the top voted things and never get implemented. It's just, what's the point?
Exactly. So, I do want to ask you real quick. I'll put you on the spot, and I apologize because I know for a fact Jacob and John are listening. But like, if you had to do it now, you had to do it again, would you still choose Hudu?
Yeah, absolutely. It's come on even more in the last few months since we joined. I love the rate of development. The guys are great and actually listen to feedback.
Awesome. Good. I'm glad you said yeah, because if not, this whole webinar would just have sucked. All right. So without that, you have some awesome stuff you want to show us. You want to change what's on your screen, because right now I can see us on your screen before I bring it up.
What do you mean? You don't want to see the beautiful tunnel of thousands of us?
I mean, I'm all about breaking the internet by Googling Google, but and I want to say thank you, because as anybody who's done demos before knows, it is incredibly difficult to stand up a demo is easy, but to populate it with data is complicated. And you did exactly that in advance of this. So I want to say thank you for that. I appreciate it. But yeah, let's get started. What are we covering first, man?
So I thought we could look at some of the examples of what like Kelvin scripts that I migrated over. Just get that out of the way. So being able to populate the asset types is pretty much the key to your automated documentation in this at the moment. So if you look, you can run a script on the server, pull out information, chuck it into the API, and upload it that way.
And how? I'm sorry. The scripts you're using to run this, you're doing it via Azure Functions, or you got a third-party server running some PowerShell? How are you doing it?
So it depends on what kind of script. So for central ones where you're just talking to one API, then looping through every customer to generate their data, I'm running those from Azure Functions at the moment. For ones which you run on an individual device, which are actually then getting the device-specific ones, I push out the script through our RMM, and then I actually post to a different Azure function, which checks the ID of the device against its name, and also has a separate API key. And then that function goes and actually talks off to the Hudu APIs, just so you're not at any point actually giving access to the data to an end device. Just because I can see at some point someone could exploit that quite badly, especially if you're doing things like documenting BitLocker recovery keys. So you have a API key which can access passwords, because if you're then chucking those to every single device you have, someone gets that and they've suddenly got access to everything. So I spent quite a while trying to figure out a way that I was happy with running that.
Awesome. So this is an example of a script, one of the Kelvin scripts that is pulling documentation out of 365.
Yeah, so this is the kind of thing of what you could do in IT Glue. You're just chucking into assets. You're doing that kind of just base level. You can create an asset with this stuff in it, which is cool and that's useful, but that's not where most of the power comes from in Hudu, or at least what the things that I like most about Hudu.
Okay, what do you like most about Hudu? Tell me.
So my favorite bits are the magic dashes, I think, is where you get a whole load of power. So it was actually an idea which a guy called Gavin Stone came up with for IT Glue, where you could have an overview of your services. But Hudu actually took that and expanded on it and made it actually a really cool built-in feature. So the original one is just a case of you can get a little widget saying you've got a service enabled or put in some data like that. Whereas with Hudu, you can actually expand it and have content. So for like our feedback surveys, We can pull in the actual individual feedbacks. I have a little thing which lists the good and bad and average feedbacks for the last 90 days for each customer. Things like bringing in open auto task tickets for the customer and flagging any which are like breaching SLA.
And I love that because you're creating a single source of truth to go look at all of the data. You're not asking any engineer, you're not asking any account manager, okay, go ahead and export the data from Crewwho and bring it into here. It's just right there. You're not having to log into partner portal, Microsoft partner portal, and have it loading for 20 minutes just to be able to see who's licensed and who's not. Or good luck if you can switch between tenants. But you have it all right here, and it makes it infinitely more usable. And think about the engineer time you're saving, being able to access it.
That's the key thing that I want to do, is have one place where someone needs to go find something and the information is just there. You're not having to log into 6 different places, say, okay, well, this is here, I need to go look at that there. I just want to end up with as few clicks as possible to get the exact info people need.
So I want to go over real quick, if you don't mind. Magic dashes are actually something I hadn't had a chance to get into yet. But if I can look here, are you changing the color of the magic dash, the background, based on a certain threshold? Like how's that happening?
Yep. So with these ones, if there's overdue tickets, I'll change this one to red. So built in, you've got this green color and this red color. But one of the most awesome things about Hudu is you can actually mess around with the CSS. So if you go to the design bit here, you can actually add in your own custom colors for whatever you want. So I've added in a warning color and then some colors for data RMM, which match the colors from Datto. So what you can then end up doing is just, dynamically based on what you want to show and flag up, you can just set the color.
That's fantastic. I love that. And I put the link in the chat for the updated Magic Dash blog. But obviously there's more. But that's phenomenal. I love that.
So what you can also start to do with Hudu is, because whenever you get an asset, it's returning the actual URL to it. So it's really easy just to link in devices, so you can go drill straight into the device from one of the Magic Dashes as well.
Are you because you're Datto, you're not using Screen Connect, right? You're using their
no, we are using a mix of their web remote or their Splashtop.
Yeah, because I'm thinking it would be fairly minimal to integrate ConnectWise control.
Yep.
Remote control links right into the Hudu assets. Very cool. Sorry, so I have my engineers watching this also, and I'm like, as I say this, note it down, get it done.
So this is the updated Microsoft 365 one. So I've just stolen Kelvin's partner portal links basically and put them in here, so you got quick buttons to be able to jump into the specific clients' portals. I'm also then grabbing like Intune devices, so you can see it go straight to their Intune device in the portal, and then also linking to their contact inside here. So this is another thing where you can start to do some really cool stuff with Hudu, which you can't really do in other things. So you've got in your synced contact, which I've just synced in from Microsoft 365. But then you can set the like asset fields on the asset as well, where with Hudu, rather than having like a standard, this is a contact where you sync contacts to, this is configurations where you sync configurations to, you actually can just build your own custom asset types for each, and then you just say, sync this to here, and Hudu will then add it as a card on that asset. So you can still do all your own custom fields, but then you also get all the data that's coming from that integration. So what I'm starting to try and do now is link in every different kind of thing just onto that one asset. So I'm doing one script will add in the Intune devices, one will add in the auto task tickets. So you just end up with one view where you can just see everything. And then the other thing I'm trying to work on is, so you can then just put in custom links for each user to fire off to an Azure function, which will then go automatically remove their licenses, deactivate the user, do that kind of stuff, do password resets with automatically texting like new password links and stuff to them. So yeah, it's super flexible with the kind of things you can do with it. And then And then another thing that
Go ahead, man. I mean, this is phenomenal. I'm gonna sit back. I'm just gonna watch you do your thing, bro.
so one thing with like data RMM, which has been really annoying me, is you can't just have a view of your devices and see what device has got what alerts open on it. So I just did that as a magic dash to save me a ton of time being able to see, okay, well, here are the alerts for this device. Can jump into the auto task ticket related to them and do that kind of stuff.
Wow, that's awesome.
And then another really cool thing I figured out the other day was whenever you're making a magic dash, it's just a really one line. It's a really nice, easy API to do. It's an API where you just need to give it a company name and it'll go create the asset in that company. You don't have to mess around with some of the other stuff like finding the company, giving it the company ID. But what you can do with literally 5 lines of code is just add in a global report on your knowledge base, which will be a view across every single customer. So if I had more backup jobs, they'd be in here, but it's just one report where you've then got everything from any customer to see.
That's awesome. And you're still getting the alerting from, whatever provider, right? From Cloudberry, MSP360, whatever. But you're just documenting here. So you have easy access to it at account level.
So this is what I actually meant to show is what you can do with the magic dashes is just have a single company where you then just have a second line saying, put it onto this company every time you create a magic dash, and you can just end up with a global overview of, so this would be all of our customer service statistics over everyone.
This is what I was really looking forward to see, because I saw you comment on it in Slack, and you had brought up that notion of like, because drilling into each customer, great, and we have our dashboards, of course, but like, this is pretty awesome. Like, this is being able to have at a glance. Are you selecting like certain clients, or are you just populating all of them? How are you making the selection?
I just tweaked my script so where they're generating the magic dashes, it just does another one which says create it in the company and then go and create it in the overview company. So you just end up with a view of everyone. That
is pretty cool. That is really awesome.
So I tend to do a different overview for each service. So I'd have one for like Crewwho, one for Autotask.
Right.
You just get views like that.
So we're just waiting for Jacob to come up with dashboards for
yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
That is awesome. All right. So what's next? So I wanted to ask you about like layouts, right? Because like that's one of the frustrating things of like, I remember when I first got into IT Glue, and it wasn't just an IT. This is not an IT Glue problem. This is a documentation problem. We had the same thing with Confluence, where you go in and now what, right? Like, how do you structure your data? And you're kind of like at the edge of a cliff, and there's so many options. You just don't know which way to go. Can you give us some tips and tricks, like what you found are the better ways to document, certain devices, like how you've done layouts, or any of the challenges you've solved when doing this?
So I kind of work backwards when I'm doing it. So I'll figure out what it is that I want to add to the documentation. I'll then go find the APIs, see if there's PowerShell modules, see what kind of APIs and different data you can actually get out at the other end. So I'll then kind of have a poke around, see the best way I can format things, see what is actually available. And then I'll work backwards from there to see, well, I need to map this as a table, so I need to put that into a rich text field. This is a date, which will be an expiry date, so I'll put it as a date field with an expiry tag on it, and just kind of work backwards that way. Also, key is then figuring out what is the actual most useful information, because you can just resort all the fields. So you want to have the things which people want to just, this is what you need 90% of the time is here, and then the rest of the stuff is just things which are nice to have if you need them occasionally.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay.
Yeah, so most of the time it's really how I work it is what information is there, and then just figure out what I can put in, what kind of field type it needs to be, and do it that way.
Do you find yourself modifying your, because I know this still happens to me, despite all my planning, despite everything, like I still find myself going back to my layouts and making constant modifications to them after the fact.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself doing that, or?
I mean, documentation should be dynamic. It's always, if there's something which you think, well, why isn't that there? Is there something else I need? Definitely add it in. Like, it's something, documentation isn't ever static, and it's something which always needs to change and be updated constantly, because the documentation is only as good as the last time it was updated. So if it's I'd be concerned if it is just you've said it once and forgot it, because
Yeah.
each day that passes, it becomes less and less useful.
So one of the biggest frustrations for me was like updating servers, and I went the absolute wrong direction. I don't want to say wrong. I turned Hudu into kind of an IPAM a little bit. I went a little beyond. But due to your inspiration, I actually am working on a netbox integration with Hudu to accomplish much of the same. But can you show us like an example of how you're documenting servers? Because servers, you have a bunch of NICs, you have a bunch of dedicated IPs. How are you doing that?
So I just use the built-in data RMM integration, to be honest, for most of the stuff. It actually works really well. So you're bringing in 90, like the things that you need to know most of the time, it's grabbing for you and bringing them in. This is just a VM, so it's not got every bit of information. But then you've also got links to take you directly back into data RMM instead to the device. So yeah, I'm extending it as well a bit with things like the server logbooks and scripts that Kelvin did before. So that's then linked in as related items.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so what else do you have automatically documenting? And hold on a second. That's a good question. Thanks. Sorry, I didn't mean to sound so incredulous at it. It just took me off. Thanks for the coverage. Is there any way to keep your docs in GitHub and feed updates into Hudu?
I mean, I guess you could have a Git repository which you're updating, and then fire off APIs to update the documents inside Hudu.
Yeah, I mean, GitHub has its webhooks for events.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out how that would happen, like where you would need the documentation in GitHub to reflect in Hudu, right? Because you're not going to do it as an asset. Maybe notification to comments for the account, or for the company to say that these are available, because you're not going to populate them in the, maybe is it to the KB, Alex? Is that what you're trying to update it in GitHub and have it populated KB in Hudu? It sounds possible. I just trying to figure out what exactly you're trying to affect by doing that. And that's kind of the beauty of it.
Is I want to make Hudu my source of truth for things, so I would keep it in Hudu. Yeah, be interesting to hear more on the use case of that one.
Yeah, me too. Because I'm thinking like change logs, maybe, like, I don't know. I'm trying to think now, like what the use cases are, and that's the beauty of Hudu. Like, and I will say this to absolutely all vendors. And there's our favorite sommelier right there. A little late, but hey, party people. What's up, Kelvin? And that's the beauty of it. Like, I'll say this to all vendors: do not charge for API access. If you're doing it, you're doing it wrong. It's like charging for SSO. If you're at that SSO tax website, guaranteed we're not doing business together. But Hudu has a very well documented API, despite the stuff that you found that wasn't originally documented. That you're, But if you want to show, can you show? Yeah, you can show the API screen from there, right? It won't show any sensitive information.
I can pull up the API documentation stuff.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, Hudu makes it very, very easy to work with. It was one of those things. Obviously, I've known Luke for a little bit at this point. We did the other TD together with CTF stuff. Like, I've been following his stuff for a while. I had a brain dead moment of, oh, I want to start doing stuff with Hudu. I had to rename something like 600 assets or something like that. And I started writing the PowerShell to, interface with the API. And of course, the first person I go ask is Luke. And I had totally had a brain dead moment, forgot he had his PowerShell module that made it infinitely easier. And if I hadn't said it before, I'll say it again. Thank you, sir, for helping me with that. Rename 600 assets in all of 120 seconds. It was pretty sweet. So yeah, it was pretty awesome. Okay, here we got an answer from Alex. Sorry, Simon, I know you were trying to bring it up too. Yes, KB is one way. The trick is GitHub Markdown. That's right. So yeah, that brings up the what is it? The editor.
Yeah, so the
conversation.
very worst feature of Hudu at the moment is their awful article editor. It's, but they are allegedly
Sorry,
working on.
we love you guys, but yeah, the editor sucks, man.
Yeah, I love Hudu, but the article editor is not the greatest. But they are working on a new editor, which I'm not sure that there are a few different options I've heard them talking about, so I'm not sure which way it'll go, but I think it should be a lot easier to edit, and potentially, I think they were talking about Markdown as one of the options of it.
Yeah, I think
So for that,
Gutenberg was one of the options, right? Like we're talking. I know there's a few options they've been bouncing back and
yeah,
forth.
I've not heard anything since. I heard they were testing a few different things and haven't heard anything since. But yeah, at some point it will be less terrible than this. And I would say before implementing something crazy like a GitHub to Hudu syncing thing, probably wait for the new editor and see if it is actually any better or not.
But you can embed HTML in almost anything, so it wouldn't be that hard to right. Well, in many places, so like it wouldn't be that hard to translate Markdown to HTML. I'd be very surprised if there wasn't a PowerShell module that already existed to do that. But that's fairly simple, right? I mean, so you could display it. You take a little finagling, causing data, but you could do it.
Yeah. So articles do take through the API. When you're creating an article, you do just paste HTML to it, but the editor, like parsing engine, strips out any nice styling or anything you add to it at the moment. So that's where most of the limitations are coming from.
So we use our documentation in a third party, so we use a different product called Allevio. Different needs, obviously, as a VoIP provider, but yeah, we haven't come across that. So we haven't had the pain point you've had.
Yeah,
but I get it.
This is about as pretty as you can end up making anything in an article at the moment. I'd struggled a lot with even getting that to do.
You got a table header. It's got it's got shadowing. Shading. I mean, you got bold column headers. Some are centered, some aren't. It's beautiful. I love that. And Kelvin's giving you props for accelerating the API development. I don't want to take away from this. I am a fan of rising tides raise all ships. I will absolutely say I'm positive you have brought up stuff they were not thinking about, and you definitely raised the bar for absolutely everybody. But at the same time, and again, without taking away anything from you, I have to give props to Hudu. They're fast.
Oh, yeah. They are awesome.
It's two good people making, or I don't say two good people because Hudu's a team, but two good entities making each other better. So I got to give props on both directions, but absolutely you have pushed them in the right direction. So thank you for that.
That's like one of the core reasons I picked them. Is just their development cycle is so quick at the moment. They're so receptive to actually changing things. They're not scared to change things, which is what a lot of products get into a phase where it's like, oh, we can't ever change this because everyone will cry. Yeah, my view on that is, if you didn't like constant change, you shouldn't have got into IT in the first place.
Right? I mean, how hard is that? Like, it kills me when I don't want to make this a tech bar after hours thing, but like, because it's exactly what we end up talking about after the show. But like, that kills me when you talk to, tech people and they're like, oh, I've been doing it this way 30 years and it works. Like, but learn new stuff. Like, that's why I got into this. That's why I love, I don't know. It's
same here. Like, I get bored quick, so
right. Exactly. So we do want to give away, we have some shirts and stuff to give away. Actually, it would be helpful if I had on my screen, except while you're talking, I've been going through your website marveling at all your blogs. We do have some shirts to give away. So Simon's going to be picking winners. If you say an awesome comment or give an awesome question, and I'll let Alex be the very first winner on that one. We are going to be giving away our IT service provider appreciation shirts in honor of Luke's background, his Lego Darth Vader and Darth Maul. Which I love. You can tell we're kind of Star Wars fans here. So yeah, this is a shirt we had prepared for IT Service Provider Appreciation Day, with Vader giving the little to you. So Alex, you'll be the first winner, and anybody else that has awesome questions, Simon will get a hold of you. So put your awesome questions and we'll pick you. And okay, hold on.
The next blog
Shipping
is going to
shirts to
be.
Kelvin is a pain in the ass because he's in Rotterdam. So that's not not that I haven't done it, but I'm not shipping Kelvin anything until I get a Cyber Drain shirt. So, but what's the next blog, man?
Next one hopefully it should be the IT glue to Hudu automated migration. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Oh, there's a good question from John. We love you, Kelvin. There's a good question from John. Is the hosted by Hudu version limited as far as Magic Dash and other customizations go? I don't think so, right? Like,
no, it is. So, where's my Google Home talking to me? No, it's not limited at all. The only thing is you might need to wait a little bit longer to get updates, and you won't be able to do like backups yourself if you're going to do a big load of API stuff. It's not much, but yeah, there's APIs and everything else is all exactly the same. There's not any limits around that.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the beauty of it. They're updating and they're putting stuff on there, but you have the same access when it comes to the API. So yeah, you're pretty golden. It's just a versioning issue at that point. But typically self-hosted are further behind than hosted, right? Because they're updating. That Luke doesn't work for Hudu, so he's not answering on their behalf. We're speaking from experience, not from not as any official statement. If you need to get an official statement, go to MSP Geek, go to the Hudu channel. They're there. Jacob's there all the time. He will answer for you. Yeah, you're very welcome, Alex. So so the blog. So you always have more than a few blogs in the pipeline, right? You're finishing the IT glue migration. What else? What else is coming?
So I'm doing I'm writing a PowerShell module for Pax8, so I can start to automate our license provisioning and removal stuff. I'm halfway through a new script to sync Microsoft 365 contacts to Autotask and automatically inactivate them and keep them up to date, because the built-in one is awful. Like, that's the thing that really annoys me with vendors is you have to do an individual app for every single bloody customer to be able to use their sync tool, and just let me use my partner delegated access, please.
Right. It would be so much more helpful if you could do so much more from the partner center. But
yeah. And then I want to try and maybe look at doing some Hudu-based, like Microsoft. There's a thing called like DSC where you can take a template configuration and then look for changes against each customer. And I want to basically be able to say this config has drifted from the standard template, or apply the template to each customer, and just have that configurable through a Hudu asset and monitored under each customer that way. Yeah, I haven't actually started playing with that one yet. I think it should be possible, but
so taking like Hudu has the concept of documentation quality, right? Saying, okay, well, this much is filled out, this much, to this degree or whatever. You're taking that for
so more for Microsoft 365 settings. So yeah, so right. I'm thinking apply our standard security policy across every customer is what I want to end up doing.
That's pretty cool. That's you're creating monitors for documentation. It's an interesting thing because like you'd figure you'd do that from PowerShell using DSE, or you do it from some other RMM from some other mechanism, but the documentation side actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because then if we want to change a setting, I have it so you can pull in a default config from a tenant, which you then say this is my tenant, my customer in Hudu, which has the master golden baseline or several different baselines.
And something DSC doesn't do is you have a running history on what you call it in Hudu. Isn't DSC a bit behind when it comes to documenting 365? Well, DSC is not a documentation tool, right? So it's
you can't use delegated access. I came up with this because I started trying to deploy it, and it was just ending up being a nightmare where I didn't really like how it was working and how slow it was going to be. So I was trying to figure out a better way to do it.
Hey, what's up, Gavin? Speaking of MSP Geek, we have the geeks here. I love it. So yeah, Gavin, do me a favor. Say something very intelligent and or awe-inspiring, so we can give you a shirt, man. So I'll go ahead and pimp that out. Why not? So okay, cool. So what are the limitations so far? What are you dying to do that you can't do yet because it's not there, but you want to badly?
Uploading files to Hudu and doing relationship links is two big things that I'm waiting for to be able to do. So you can kind of frig it with an asset link to link to any asset. So when you set it up and use it in Hudu, you can only link to assets of a specific type that you set. But if you do it through the API, you can actually just link to everything. But yeah, being able to link like to companies and stuff and do the actual related links that you get in the right. That's not something that's yet, but soon.
That's pretty cool. So Alex says, yeah, I meant to say documenting your configuration of DSC. Yeah, Luke got it right on the money. He's a smart cookie. All right, man. Well, if there are no other questions, anything else you wanted to show off? I know we're a little early, but I know it's a little late for you, so I want to be respectful of your time.
I don't mind. Is there anything you want to see in particular? I could run through like the steps and different things I do for making a Hudu script.
Yes, let's do it.
Let me reshare my screen.
There we go.
So pretty much all my scripts will have a common kind of set
Luke,
of things.
Could you zoom in a little bit just to make it a little more legible?
No, apparently. What if I share a window? Yeah, let me do that, and then I'll share the window instead.
Yeah. I think VS Code honors Control Plus or whatever it is.
I just tried that and it didn't.
Oh, really?
Is that any better?
Oh, yeah, that's better. Much better.
Cool.
Of course, Mr. VS Code himself. Control scroll.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah. We got it, sir. This is not your podcast. This
doesn't like me. So there's a few different steps which basically every script I'll end up doing. So the first thing is basically setting your variables, setting the config things for the script. So you can set them inside the script, but don't do that. Don't ever hard code your things inside that script. So what I've moved to doing is actually storing it all in Azure Key Vault, and then just having a section of the script where it downloads and grabs all the tokens from that. If you want to do that, actually Gavin Stone has done a brilliant blog on it, which is this one.
And for those who don't know, Azure Key Vault is a place to store your secret information, your private information. Think your env file, but storing it outside of the script, because you should never store the stuff in the script. Like Luke's saying, Azure has a function, and actually, I've been begging Kelvin to do a tech in 5 minutes thing on Key Vault. But like you said, Gavin has a blog with a script for this, right?
Gavin's actually done a really good one on how to set it up for specifically how you can store them and retrieve them for PowerShell scripts. So you end up using a certificate to authenticate from your local machine into the Vault. So just adding a nicer place. So I've ended up now where I've just got everything is just stored in Key Vault, and if I need to update a password, I just update it there, and every different script that I use just pulls it from there instead. So it makes life a lot easier.
Kelvin says 2 or 3 episodes away. It's coming. He just put up one today. And actually, Gavin, if you want to put the link to your script, let's put it in there, because
I did paste it in the chat
also. Oh, did you? Okay, perfect.
So once you've got your settings set and any functions and stuff done, you want to actually do the import your Hudu module, and then just set the API keys, which is just do a quick test in the background to make sure that it can connect. So when you're then working with creating actual device assets and layouts, the first thing you want to do is make sure that the layout that you're going to be populating exists. So you do a quick check to try and grab it using the get Hudu assets thing, and then you can populate an array with actually describing your asset layout. So text is basically a single text field. A rich text is the one I use the most, because that just lets you chuck in HTML. So you can put in tables, you can put in formatted lists, you can put in nice shiny bits and links and stuff into those. And then there's a whole load. If you have a check in the API docs, it tells you all the different ones you've got and the different options for each. So you then want to create it if it doesn't exist. For this one, I've got a site and a device, so I just create 2 different layouts I'm going to use later. Then once you've done that, you want to actually go and grab the data from whichever service that it is you want to get data from. So this is showing grabbing data out of Aruba's instant on APIs. The key thing is at this point, you want to get a list of all the sites, so all your customers which you're going to loop through. So this is for a central script where you're using one script to populate the data for each customer, for like lots of different customers in one go. So once you've got your list of customers, you then want to go and grab all the data for each customer. So I do a quick check to see if the asset actually exists or not that you're going to be updating, to figure out which customer you're actually looking at in Hudu. So for this one, I do a check to see if the site name actually exists or if it matches the company name. If it doesn't, I just print a message saying, go create a blank asset just with this site name, and then run the script again and it will go populate it. So this then goes and grabs all of the data out of the actual API for the customer. So once you then got the data, you want to format it and make it look nice, which is a whole load of tricks that I've stolen from Kelvin on how to do this. So you can do things like create a object which just has a list of things, and then using this convert to HTML as list, it will just print it into, take that object and make it a nice HTML list for you. Using this replace table styling, you can just set a nice header with different styles. This was something I stole from Kelvin, which if you set the variable at the very start, it said just as a simple replace on, make every table heading this background color. And then it's just a whole lot more of converting to HTMLs, but as tables, and just selecting the right kind of values, making it look nice.
And then you have a fan here, by the way. Clemente Castellon saying your scripts are amazing. Just discovered them a few days ago and started getting into them for Hudu. Thank you very much. So not bad.
Thank you. So once you've got all your data and you made it look nice, you want to create a hash table of the actual values you're going to send into Hudu. So these just match what you made in the your original asset layout. You just do lowercase and replace it with underscores, and then put in the actual data you want to send to Hudu, and you just fire that in along with like a company ID and the layout ID, and then the actual fields, and that will make the asset. So this is something which is a little bit of a nightmare in Hudu. So for a lot of my scripts which use this trick, it's basically you have to be in PowerShell core, because this minus as array, which is the really important thing, isn't actually in PowerShell 5.1. So when you're linking to using an asset tag link, you have to put in a like text quoted, like escaped quoted JSON string as the actual passed in thing. But if you mess it up, it actually bricks the asset and you have to manually delete the asset through the API. So this is the nice way I found to do it to avoid causing horrible problems in the end.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so that happens anything below 5.1 or 5.1?
Yeah,
below,
so it still works. There's other ways you can work around it, but the cleanest way is just use PowerShell 7. So that's what I did in the end.
Okay.
Again, once you've got your tables and your the actual fields populated, you just chuck it into a check if the asset exists and update it. If it doesn't exist, create a new one. It's all nice and easy. And then the last thing I tend to do after that is building Magic Dash up. So the shade setting is what I was talking about earlier, where you've got the custom CSS and you can set different colors of your own. So this is just then setting what shade it should be. So a cool trick you can actually do is if you look in use like F12 and inspect the elements of Hudu, you can actually reuse the elements from the company page inside Magic Dashes. So that's what all these like basic info section things are, and the NASA blocks. This is what Hudu itself is actually using internally. So you can put those into your Magic Dashes to actually make it look nice, and just steal their CSS basically. So this looks a little bit messy.
Make it reusable, so that if they, if they change something, you don't have to sit there and go, modify every inline CSS selector or whatever. It makes a lot of sense.
So I'm stealing all their code basically to try and make them look nice. And then magic dashes. If you want to start playing around with Hudu, I'd say start playing around with magic dash, because all you need to do is build up a body element of what the HTML is you want to be when you click open. Chuck in the title of it that appears at the top. Chuck in the company name, which is just how the company name is spelt in Hudu. You don't have to do any lookups or anything. The message is the bit which appears on the actual front of it when it's collapsed, and then the icon is just a font awesome icon you can look up to set the icon of it, and then body
So
and shader.
Kelvin and Gavin are having their own private conversation in the chat. They're answering for us. So Kelvin's asking, are the magic dashes just using bootstrap elements? Gavin says yes, and then he says, although Hudu's using classes already in their code, so you should be able to reuse any of the or most of the bootstrap classes there, right?
I'm trying to get them to extend it so you can start embedding JavaScript as well, and then you'll be able to do some really cool stuff with them. But yeah, they're trying to figure out how to do it securely is the main problem with that at the moment.
Yeah, and that's the catch-22, right? You start injecting JavaScript, you can start easily breaking things or create security vulnerabilities. Yeah, but I mean, that's one of the things I love, and Kelvin hit it on the head. Like when I saw that it was using Docker, when I saw it was using some of the technologies it's using, Hudu itself it's a Ruby application, isn't it? I loved it because it's like, these are the right things to be doing to be going forward. Don't make, please don't make me install an ISO that I can't access the underlying file system later. Like, I love that it was using S3 buckets. I love that it was all distributed. It just made so much sense, right? Using Let's Encrypt for its SSL certs. Like, it just made so much sense. I love that. Don't overcomplicate the thing, and don't charge me an extra $50 a user so I can have the enterprise version with an SSL cert, please.
Yeah.
I think I have a complaint here from Aaron. He says, will you leave anything to him to script, because everything he tries to do, you've already done.
Well, this is my problem. Everything I go to script, I do a search, and Kelvin's bloody done it already.
Well, and that's why I love Daniel Bullock. That's why I love like the GSIT stuff, and Gavin and your stuff. Like, it creates so much inspiration. So I started writing our PowerShell module for NetSapiens, and yes, Kelvin's gonna say, I already did that last year. I'm doing a new one anyway because I want to. But I'm creating one for us. But the first thing I do is I go look at each of your respective blogs and see, like, not only what you've did for inspiration, but how you've accomplished certain challenges, because they keep coming up over and over again, regardless of which API set you're using or whatever. So I love that. That little, that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Do you have that available as up in GitHub or somewhere where anybody could, as a starting point?
I was thinking I'll probably write a blog just going through, listing up the core Hudu sections.
That works. Yeah, absolutely. And Clemente, we're going to do this. I'm going to put you on hold. Okay. Simon's going to note your information. I want you to come up with something you've done on your own in PowerShell with Hudu that hasn't been done yet. When you come up with that something, we're going to send you not one shirt, but 5 different shirts from the swag shop. Because I promise you can do it, because Luke's done his thing, Kelvin's done his thing, Daniel's done his thing, Gavin's done his thing, and they've all just made these awesome repositories of like all this different stuff. And I promise you the creativity will come. We have faith in you. We got you, man.
It's like the biggest problem I always had, and I've been like thinking about doing it for ages, but the biggest problem I always have is like the horrible nagging voice of like imposter syndrome going on. And it's like, I was thinking, oh, they're going to just all hate my code. Right. They're all going to say I'm awful and stuff. But it's ended up posting it. The worst thing that happens is they laugh at my terrible code and give me really good advice on how to fix it.
I'm not gonna lie, that happens to me all the time. Like, I sit there and like I almost like I don't DM, like even when I was asking you for help with the PowerShell thing, like I'm not a fan of like sending private messages to ask for help. I like to do it publicly, because I know if I'm asking, somebody else has the same concern. And so despite I may get a dummy don't do that, which I've never seen Kelvin do or you do ever.
Oh, I've posted some brilliant code Kelvin would tell you about in like the PowerShell channel.
Yeah, actually, I will take that back. Kelvin may call us dummies, but that's just because we're friends. But like, generally, like the community is more than happy to jump in and help out. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to do stuff. I promise you, the inspiration will come, and you'll do it. And worst case scenario, they tell you a better way to do it, and they save you time. I mean, that's not a bad thing. So I think that Simon, why don't you come on and tell us? Give me 2 more people that we want to give away shirts to. I'm in a generous mood today.
Okay, so the 2 people that I want to give shirts to, you may not like because the shipping is going to be far as hell. So Gavin and Kelvin, both of you guys, if you guys want to DM me, my email is simon@oit.co, and then we'll get you guys some shirts as well. And then we do have some upcoming events coming back up in the month of June. If you guys want to join us, we have our partner first webinar, Grow Your Team, the ultimate screening and hiring process with Eureka process. That's on June 9th, and that will be Ray, Adam Edwards, and Brooke Lee of Eureka process. And then we're back out in the physical events. We have on June 16th, June 17th, we have the ASCII Success Summit in Ohio. And then in June 22nd and June 25th, we're going to be at IT Expo in Miami Beach, Florida. That's right in the headquarters of OIT. And then on 6/24, if you guys do not want to miss the Tech Bar podcast with Tom Lawrence of Lawrence Systems. And last but not least, we have in July 8th, our partner first webinar with the most interesting Canadian, Miles Walker. He was actually part of our Tech Bar with the ID agent team. That will be with Graphis. It'll be on simple, powerful, automated phishing defense. So make sure to tune in for that.
That dude had a story for everything.
He truly is the most
You could
interesting
say
Canadian.
underwater basket weaving, using mustard as a binder when you're making a pork roast, and he has a story. Like the dude is amazing. You know, and we have here Clemente, been coding for a while, just learned about Hudu 3 weeks ago, never ever touched PowerShell either. I'm new to this world, but I can see there's great content creators for this. Clemente, that's the absolute truth. It is. Oh, dude, I wish I was in your spot because I wouldn't have the detriment of all the mistakes I've made in the past. Like, it's an open field to you, my friend. There's so much cool stuff that you can discover, that you will discover. Never be afraid to jump in and ask questions. You know, Kelvin's the first to say he's been angry about code, but he's always going to help. And I can say that for Luke because I've seen it happen. I can say that for Gavin. I will jump in with my absolute mediocre skills and I will help out however I can. But dude, just get down and do it. And hit us up on Geek, hit us up on MRU or on Reddit or anywhere else. Hit up Luke's blog. I'm sure he loves the comments on the blog. Or I will invite you, if you want to come up with an idea you haven't seen yet, maybe we'll do a live technical deficit. We'll grab Luke or Kelvin or both with you, Clemente, and we'll figure out how to do it live. I'll put that out there. The point of technical deficit is solving technical challenges with friends. So that invite is open to you, my friend. With that, Luke, thank you so much for being here, man. It's enlightening, awe-inspiring. I love this. I'm a little jealous you get to drink and I don't yet. But,
thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. And your blog, you're on Twitter. I appreciate you reposting. I saw this week. Where else can we find you?
I'm on MSP Geek, the Slack channel there, quite a lot. I keep an eye on the Hudu subreddit. Yeah, Twitter, whatever.
Literally everywhere. Poor Simon. Simon's like, here. He's everywhere. Yeah, Kelvin, exactly. Live PowerShell workshop with Gavin and Luke. I think that would be phenomenal for a technical deficit. We will set that up. Simon, make it happen. Thank you. Thanks, Glenn. I absolutely, I will take advantage of that as soon as I can get some lunch. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for joining us on this awesome episode of Technical Deficit with Ray and Friends. My many thanks to Luke and to everybody who joined in the audience, Kelvin, Gavin, Glenn, John, Aaron, Clemente, and everybody else who I didn't mention. We thank you for joining us. You guys are awesome. This is why we do it. If you want anything on here, this is not sales presentation. This is not thought leadership. This is just solving technical challenges that come across the MSP world every day. Shoot an email over to simon@oit.co, and if you have an idea for what you want to see, and we will absolutely get it done. But until next time, have an awesome rest of your week.